Good afternoon. Welcome to Kol Hadash Humanistic Congregation at the North Shore Unitarian Church. It's a great pleasure to welcome all of you here to celebrate the life and the work of our Rabbi Emeritus Daniel Friedman. Just a couple of logistical announcements before we begin. First, you'll notice to the back of the room there are emergency exit doors. If we need to leave the space, that's the best way to leave the room. There's also an emergency external defibrillator outside in the coat room area, as well as first aid kits and a stop the bleed kit there as well. Secondly, this is the mantra of our era. If you have a cell phone, please make sure it is silenced or even off. That works too. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to our impresario for this evening, Mark Friedman.
I will start by stealing a line from my father, which he repeated many times. The three greatest blessings are love, friendship, and air conditioning. And today in this room, we have all three. My name is Mark Friedman. I'm the very proud son of Rabbi Daniel Friedman, and I'm here to welcome you, not to his birthday party, but to a reunion of three generations who were led and influenced and inspired by Rabbi Dan. Over 4 decades, he and we created our own version of Jewish identity with attention to honesty and purpose and meaning, and especially integrity. But this reunion is not about ideology. A reunion is a gathering of people. Our appearance here today is the evidence that the Rabbi Dan era was not just talk about ideas and philosophy, it was about applying these ideas in action. Building a community is action, and it takes effort, sometimes struggle. It can even mean taking action to emerge from a crisis, which we did twice at Beth Or in 1969 and in 2001. And for a community to be fully alive and active, it needs to build or to rent a home. So I'm here to welcome you home. Yes, we humanistic Jews have at times been wandering Jews, but this place, even though it says church on the front, is our home. Kol Hadash members and friends recognize this Unitarian church as our current home. Some of you might think of your home as the Congregation Beth Or building at 2075 Deerfield Road, which no longer exists, except in our memories. But even before 1969, when 2075 Deerfield Road became a reality, this place was our home. It's deeply embedded in the DNA of this community. For example, the first Shabbat service that my father led after being appointed as Beth Or's rabbi was held in this building, in the fellowship hall, where we will have snacks later. The date was August 6th, 1965, exactly 60 years and 5 days ago today. Beth Or at that time held all of its Friday night services and bar and bat mitzvah services in the fellowship hall in the mid-1960s. If you look at the front page of your program, if anybody notices anything familiar about where this photo was taken, it's right there. This is a photo of Rabbi Dan with students entering the Sunday school at the school year's opening consecration service in 1968. That photo was taken here. You can see the kids are sitting on these risers, and you can recognize the chairs, the same chairs we used today. They were just as uncomfortable then. In fact, that same fall of 1968, it was Beth Or who christened this sanctuary. When the church completed construction on this magnificent structure in the fall of 1968. Beth Or had its first Shabbat service here, and Rabbi Dan led the first sermon from this rock on a Friday night, 2 days before the Unitarian Church had their first service here. So no, we don't have 2075 Deerfield Road any longer, but we do have this space, a crucial part of our past and our present. So welcome home. Many of you know that we have created a book documenting the memories of dozens of Beth Or and Kol Hadash members from 1965, when Rabbi Dan and our family arrived at Beth Or, through 2004, when he retired for a second time. The book is cleverly titled Memories. And it contains the reflections of 94 people from all 4 decades of Dan's career. In our program today, we've invited 3 Kol Hadash members who are in the book to give brief excerpts from their essays that they wrote for the book. They represent 3 phases of the Rabbi Dan era. Margie Marcus was a founding member of Beth Or in 1960. Ellen Shepard grew up at Beth Or in the 60s and 70s, a child of the founding generation. And Mark Friedlander was a Beth Or member beginning in the 1980s, and then, along with about 100 families, created the bridge to the present by founding Kol Hadash in 2001. You will also hear music of the Rabbi Dan era. The songs we've selected are each the product of my father, and often my mother's, remarkable gift for expressing through music the meanings and emotions of humanistic Jewish celebration and meditation. Each song you'll hear today was written or adapted by Dan and Felice Friedman as they developed Beth Or's musical repertoire over the years. So rather than talking any longer about music, let's hear some. And before I hand the service over to Ellen, it's not a service, by the way. It is not a service. I just want to tell you, we have a different decorum today. You can applaud for them.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom L'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh bracha. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom L'olam. Na'aseh shalom. Na'aseh bracha. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom L'olam. Na'aseh shalom. Na'aseh bracha. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom L'olam. Na'aseh shalom. Na'aseh bracha.
Before we have our first speaker, I want to acknowledge 4 very important people here today a lot of you were children of the founding generation of Beth Or. I'm one of them. But we have 4 people that I know of who were adult members of Beth Or in the 1960s. I'm not going to ask anybody to stand, but maybe you could raise your hand. Lita Passon, who joined Beth Or in 1967. Joan Krimstein, where did you go? Oh, you moved. Okay, Joan Krimstein, standing, joined in 1965. And 2 founding members of Beth Or in 1960, which predates us by 5 years. Where is Esther Silberman? And Margie Marcus, who is going to now speak.
Okay, I'm honored to have been asked to do this. That's the first thing I want you to know. In August of 1965, our congregation received a gift. I'm going to toward him. Okay. Rabbi Daniel Friedman came to our temple in Deerfield to be our rabbi at Beth Or and brought brilliance to our house of light. He came to a congregation of Reformed Jews, and as he was developing new ideas about a new form of Judaism, eventually, under the influence and with the collaboration of Rabbi Sherwin Wine, he called it Humanistic Judaism. During the next 3 years, he eased our congregation into this new belief, and we learned that it meant freedom. From the beginning, due to his mind, manner, and effectiveness, when Dan Friedman spoke, everybody listened. My personal remembrances of Dan are: my daughter Miriam was his first baby naming. He bar mitzvahed, then confirmed my son Bruce. He traveled to Iowa to officiate at my father's funeral. He used my father's yad until the congregation could afford to purchase one. He listened to my father sing the Kiddush each time he visited us in Deerfield. He married all 3 of my children. He announced baseball scores during high holiday services. He blew his trumpet for us many times. His sense of humor was prevalent in each and every sermon. He never expressed political opinions from the pulpit, and more and more and more. I have always felt a highly respected, warm, and caring affection for him. And professionally, Dan, I feel as deeply about you as you felt about Rabbi Jacob Weinstein. It was a sad day for our congregation in June of 2000 when you retired, and in 2004, it was the time to say goodbye, that's in quotes, to all of us, after being rabbinic advisor to a new congregation we were forming and named Kol Hadash. We wished you well for the rest of your life and started anew. At your age of 90, I am still blessed to be able to be in touch with you from time to time. Stay upright, my friend. I send you a lot of love.
Fields of children running wild in the sun, like a flower in
So before I introduce our next speaker, I want to ask you to, you've already heard her, and if you look at this picture, you've already seen her. On the picture in the front of your program, Ellen Shepard is in the front row, second from the left. So what I call Ellen and I are probably the two longest lasting lifers in humanistic Judaism in this room, basically from diapers to present day. We were both born in 1963. This has been our life from beginning to present. So I'd like to ask Ellen to come up.
When Mark said from diapers, I leaned over to my brother Jim and said, and now going back to diapers. So, as Mark said, I've spent my entire life as part of Beth Or and Kol Hadash. My parents were members of Beth Or when Rabbi Friedman arrived, and they were part of the group that stayed when he proposed the shift to humanistic Judaism. I went through Beth Or Sunday School from kindergarten, which is, I think, that picture, all the way through confirmation. So here are some of my memories of what Rabbi Friedman created at Beth Or. At Beth Or Sunday School, we read books and saw films several grades before we were exposed to them in public school, and sometimes not until college. I remember My Name is Asher Lev, Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, The Point, The Lottery, and other thought-provoking material taught me how to think critically, and maybe sometimes even a little too precociously. I remember lying in my bunk at Campfire Girl Camp, asking my tent mates how they knew there was a God, which probably didn't assuage anyone's fears about being away from home and sleeping in the woods. And some of the Sunday school teachers were legendary. Entry into their classes marked major life stages. Going into Don Litz's ethics class and Rabbi Friedman's confirmation class were as much rites of passage as bar and bat mitzvahs. Rabbi Friedman deeply impacted how I navigate the world. Being grounded in a belief that there isn't a higher power that's going to take care of things led me to a lifetime and a career in social justice activism. Because of Rabbi Friedman's musicianship, he embedded music into Beth Or. For the Beth Or choir, he brought in a remarkable array of professional talent to support our amateur singers. The original choir was overseen by Max Janowski. One of the first rehearsals was in my parents' living room. And we tackled a sophisticated repertoire. Sharon's nodding, yes, yes, yes. And we were guided by Dan's very high expectations and later the talents of Sarah Beatty and Alan Apley. I joined the choir when I was maybe 13, and I was in and out during my adult years. And recently, singing in the Kol Hadash choir with my brother Jim is a great joy in my life. I loved how music and theater were part of our Sunday school experience. I remember sitting in the pit at Beth Or, looking at David Noskin, yes, yes. And we sang folk songs. Some had a direct Jewish connection, and others were related to issues of the day, like One Tin Soldier and Little Boxes. Beth Or helped spur a love of folk music that's still very much with me today. And I also remember the Beth Or shows. We had the amazing benefit of Brenda Siegel and her partner Eileen Bovers, who wrote and directed adult and kids shows. In Sunday school, I had the opportunity to be part of shows including an expanded version of Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I still have Brenda's original songs from that show stuck in my head, like the Old Testament women singing at the well, "We need liberation now, our lives are really rotten." Anybody? Esther and Haman dancing a soft shoe. I have known Rabbi Friedman for really my entire cognizant life. He conducted our family's bar mitzvahs, confirmations, weddings, and funerals. He supported my parents through their adulthood and aging and deaths, and he watched their children go up and reach middle age and older. Every time I've seen him over the years, he inquired thoughtfully about our lives, remembering details both current and past. Recently, he dug through his files and he presented my brother Jim with his bar mitzvah service program from 1968. He helps hold the memories of my parents. To me, he is not just our rabbi, but a beloved family member.
I dream of a world filled with sunshine and light, filled with sunshine and light. I dream of a world filled with peace and with love, filled with peace and with love. The time is now, if I wish, if I will. The time is now. The time is now, if I wish, if I will. The world is here with
On the horn, Evan Kessler, proud to say a former Sunday school student of mine, but I can claim no responsibility for any of what you just saw. Our next speaker is Mark Friedlander, who holds a unique distinction in our congregation. He is entering his second term as the congregation's first gentleman. This past June, his wife, Andrea Friedlander, assumed the gavel as our steering committee chair for a second time, disproving the belief that a president who returns to office for a second non-consecutive term is a bad idea. Andrea is great, and Mark is great, and I ask him to come speak now.
Thank you, Mark. There are a number of good stories about your father. Today, I'd like to tell an origin story. Rabbi Dan Friedman and Humanistic Judaism may have saved my marriage, or at least resolved my first marital conflict. Andrea and I like to describe ourselves as a mixed Jewish marriage. Andrea grew up in a kosher home, was bat mitzvahed in a conservative congregation. I had two Jewish parents, but I was never bar mitzvahed. I grew up with Christmas trees and Easter eggs, went to school on the high holidays, and never attended any kind of synagogue. Because we were both Jewish, we never had the kind of premarital religion counseling that most mixed marriage couples have today. Having gotten married in August of 1982, we returned home from our honeymoon just before the high holidays. Andrea was used to attending services for both days of Rosh Hashanah, and I didn't want to go at all. The first year, we compromised, and we went to services on the first day of Rosh Hashanah at the Hillel at Northwestern University. But the service was too bland for Andrea and too religious theistic for me. Andrea found the rituals comfortable, but for me, watching the old men davening in the corner sent visions of primitive African tribal rituals through my brain. The following year, we tried different services, but we struck out again, trying to find one that felt Jewish enough for Andrea, but didn't put words in my mouth that I didn't believe. We thought we were destined to be unhappy every year, and that the conflict would get worse when we had children. We were living downtown in 1984 when we were invited to attend my colleague's son's bar mitzvah at Beth Or. Although both Andrea and I had grown up in the North Shore, we had never heard of Beth Or. What a revelation. We sat there in shock and incredulity. I actually enjoyed the service because the music was great and the service only preached what I already believed. Andrea also liked the music and the respect for Jewish tradition, but more importantly, she loved the ways that they had both been reinterpreted in a non-theistic theistic fashion, which corresponded to her real philosophical beliefs. So mere days later, despite the fact we were living downtown, we officially joined Beth Or in Deerfield. And the issue of what kind of Judaism to practice never came up again in our marriage. For over 40 years now, we have been happy to call ourselves humanistic Jews, and to have had the opportunity to give a Jewish education to our children that we both wholeheartedly embrace. After our first exposure to Beth Or, we believed that Rabbi Friedman was a genius to have figured out how to reinterpret Judaism to make it palatable to non-theistic Jews. Then we learned about the whole humanistic movement and Rabbi Friedman's substantial contribution to it. That confirmed for us that we were right. Dan Friedman was a certified genius who changed our lives for the better. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, Rabbi Friedman.
I would like to invite up members of the Kol Hadash choir. please join me up here on stage. And I would also like to invite alumni choir members who are Joyce and Rich Hirsch, Arthur and Roz Croft, Paul and Betty Herder. Sharon Noskin is so excited that she just came up here without her name being called. Amy Parker, Molly Rotman-Orman, Lisa Weinberg-Jacobs, and the granddaughter of the man of the hour, Eva Lakin.
To be a rabbi is to be an heir to a legacy of learning. From the beginning of Rabbinic Judaism, rabbis have quoted the authority and insight of their predecessors. Rabbi X said that Rabbi Y said that Rabbi Z said such and such. This is not an ancient game of telephone. This is a chain of knowledge, teacher to student who becomes teacher. In every Jewish denomination, the same first question is asked and answered at rabbinic ordinations. Yoreh, can he teach? Yoreh, he can teach. Humanistic Judaism diverges in the second question. Instead of asking Yadin, can he judge? Or Tadin, can she judge? Can they impose religious law? Instead, in our movement, we ask Yaskil, Taskil, can he enlighten? Can they enlighten? Yaskil, he can enlighten. Rabbi Daniel Friedman once introduced himself at an International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism colloquium by saying, I used to be a Reform rabbi. Well, he has certainly met our movement's standard of ordination. Can he enlighten? He has enlightened. He has enlightened us through his deep insight into the human condition. Many generations recall his provocative questions at the high holidays that would have families debating the whole drive home and after. He has enlightened through his dry and delicious sense of humor. I want to share one joke that he told at a colloquium conference that stayed with me for 30 years. he was explaining the power of humanity to improve the world, and he told this story. A humanist has created a beautiful garden in his backyard with raised beds and flowers and perennials and everything else. And he invites his religious neighbor over to visit. And the neighbor says to the humanist, "What a beautiful garden you and God have created." And the humanist says, "You should have seen it when God had it to himself." Rabbi Friedman has enlightened us through his deep and wide knowledge of Jewish life, of philosophy, of ethics, of culture, and even of politics. He has enlightened us through his talented and discerning musical ear, creating and curating our repertoire that creates and inspires our community. Rabbi Friedman has enlightened us through his courage to ask difficult questions, to pursue the truth wherever it may lead, and to speak the truth as best he knows it. And he has enlightened us through his example of dignity and discipline, and intelligence and wisdom and caring concern. Thousands, literally thousands, of intermarriage wedding ceremonies that other rabbis refuse to perform and some still refuse to celebrate, they are just one example of his principle of treating the choices of others with respect and with honor. This tribute volume of pictures and memories is but the tip of the iceberg of the powerful impact, Dan, that you have had on thousands of lives. And we offer it to you in hardcover form with gratitude, with respect, and with deep love for all that you have meant in our lives. I invite you to join me here as we give him a loud round of applause.
Hi. I did not plan to speak today, and that is why my name does not appear in the service. I intended to sit back and kveld. But I woke up this morning at 1:30 and was disturbed by a thought. I was obsessed by a thought that would not allow me to return to sleep until I had put that obsession to rest. Here it is. I'm reading because I no longer trust my short-term memory. I also have a case of allergies that you may have witnessed, which will disturb my presentation somewhat. Here is the thought. Beth-Or / Kol Hadash children do not stray far from their mothership. Beth-Or Kol Hadash children do not stray far from their mothership. That is one of the consistent messages that this book conveys. I'm reading now. You may not see their physical expression of their selves, of their presence, but they are present spiritually, if I may use the word. I have not read this book yet, but I live too close to my son Mark, who came out of his retirement to plan and execute the plan for what we affectionately called the event. You are now experiencing the event. Mark was responsible for every detail that this day represents. There were many people who helped him and are still helping him today, but he was responsible for the organization, for the creativity, for the wisdom that were no small measure a part of what we are now enjoying today. So even though I haven't read the book, I could not help but overhear bits and pieces of it through and from Mark. And that is why I am able to say with confidence that I will always consider our commitment to humanistic Judaism as real and tangible, even though you may not see its manifestations physically. Humanistic Judaism is not a bar mitzvah mill. Contrary to the cynical and widespread assumptions that once bar mitzvahed, and I hate that word, bar mitzvahed, I will use it only one more time and never again. Contrary to the assumption that once bar mitzvahed, the boy or girl, the young man or woman, is never to be seen or heard from again. Poof, gone. Contrary to this assumption, humanistic Judaism is such that once experienced honestly and thoroughly, its roots take form within the soil of the history of the Jewish people. And the truths that one learns become rooted in the very lives of their children. They are thanks to teachers and teachings that we come to take for granted. They are not to be taken for granted. They are to be cherished and nourished and appreciated and observed. Humanistic Judaism is a very difficult expression of Judaism because it doesn't tell you what to believe. It tells you that you should believe, but it doesn't tell you what. That challenge is before every one of us and before our children. This is a gratifying message that our children and their children will appreciate what we and our ancestors and descendants create or created. We have a very gratifying message to rabbis and to the children of Jews who gravitate or have chosen humanistic Judaism. I wish that coming here is a kind of promise. You are here not only for yourselves, but for the future that yourselves have made possible, a future we are assured by your very presence here. The fact that not all of our children or grandchildren are present here does not mean that they are not deeply affected by our presence here. They will become a form of Judaism that perhaps we may not even recognize, but it will be a sustaining and provocative and exceptionally rewarding Judaism as it has in its previous forms been for our ancestors. Now, I wrote this by hand. I'm no longer able to use my computer comfortably. And I want to show you, when I said I wrote it, I literally wrote it by hand, and you're welcome to take a look at the script to realize that I'm not just speaking in metaphors. I literally put pen to paper. At 3 o'clock, I finished my scribbles, but by then I was wide awake and knew that I would require some kind of artificial stimulant. So I took half a sleeping pill. I remained awake for the rest of the night. And today, it's now what, 2:30? I'm still awake. I'm fully awake. And hope that you also are fully awake. I have to thank all of you, each and every one of you, for whatever you contributed to the possibility of this day. But obviously I cannot name them all. I probably could if I needed to, but I will forego the pleasure and merely thank Mark to represent all of you, because without his genius, my genius would not have been recognized. I thank you, all of you, for coming here today, for demonstrating your commitment to this congregation, and even more important, your commitment to the future. Thank you all. Thanks, Mark. Thank you all. And one more. In case you couldn't notice it, I'm quelling.
Well, it is also my job to thank people. Fortunately, it's written down on the back of your program book. I encourage you, if you see people with their name tag that represent people on the thank you list, to be sure to offer them your gratitude. Inside the program book, you may have noticed a blue piece of paper. On that blue piece of paper, there's follow-up information of what to do next. Mark will be emailing a copy of the PDF, the digital version of the memory book, to people who weren't able to be here, or it will be available more broadly so others can have a chance to see it and experience it. And he may have other updates to come. If you want to be in touch about future updates related to the history of Congregation Beth Or or Rabbi Friedman, you can contact Mark. His email address is on that blue sheet. Also, if you did not get a chance to share your own memories in the memory book, there will be a PDF addendum to the printed book, and you can contact Mark for more information. There's also information on the sheet about recording a video message to share with Rabbi Dan in the future, if you so choose. Now, to allow as many people as possible to say a brief hello to Rabbi Dan, if they choose to, after this program concludes in just a moment, we'll form a receiving line. He'll be sitting in the chair of honor, and we ask that the receiving line line up along the center row and perhaps along the ramp so that people have a chance to come and say hello. But I also ask you to be time efficient in your saying hello, so there's time for everyone to make it through the line. You're also free to head out directly. We have a reception in that fellowship hall where the services of Beth Or began, to schmooze and to chat and to have a nosh and nibble as well. Now, what other closing song could we have for a program than Peace Be With You? Unlike what it says in the program, there's always an error in every printed material in any community. This song was actually originally written by Ann Bartenfeld Barrows for the North Shore Unitarian Church, and it was adapted by Rabbi Dan many, many years ago. It's become a song of joy and of tears, of meaningful moments in Chicagoland humanistic Judaism and beyond. And so those who know it don't even need the lyrics. I invite anyone who chooses to join our choir and sing Shalom Aleichem, Peace Be With You. Once again, thank you all for coming, and thank you for this tribute to Rabbi Dan.